Not everything born among kings is destined for the throne. Sometimes royal blood is more of a burden than a privilege. Have you ever heard of Caesarion? The only son of Cleopatra, possibly the direct heir of Julius Caesar, raised to be the bridge between two powers, Egypt and Rome. But what could have been a historic alliance became a target. A child shaped by royalty, but swallowed by the intrigues of power. This story isn't just about politics. It's about survival, betrayal, and silence. About what happens when an empire wants to erase an entire bloodline, even if it carries the name of Caesar. Get ready to uncover the behind-the-scenes of one of the greatest mysteries of ancient history, where every choice came at the cost of lives, and even a legitimate son could become disposable. And the most shocking part? Some details still make the past feel more cruel than any fiction. Caesarion came into the world at a time when fate was stitched with threads of ambition and power. Son of Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, and according to her, none other than Julius Caesar, he was born carrying the weight of two empires on his shoulders. Although Caesar never publicly declared the boy as his heir, Cleopatra spared no effort in promoting her son as the rightful successor to the Egyptian throne, and perhaps even to Roman power. This boy wasn't just royal, he was a political symbol, a living promise on the board of great ancient civilizations. And as he grew up, his presence became increasingly difficult to ignore for those eyeing the throne of Rome. The Egyptian queen wasted no time. From an early age, she worked to position Caesarion as the link between two worlds, building an image that placed him on equal footing with the greatest leaders in ancient history. And let's face it, that's no small feat. A young heir, supposedly the son of the most powerful man in Rome, being raised in Alexandria, a city overflowing with culture, wealth, and influence. Cleopatra used all her political wit to make her son's name echo not only in Egypt, but also in the heart of the Roman Empire. With each of her moves, the legend around the boy grew. Even without Caesar's official recognition, the rumors spread. In Rome, some whispered about the son of the divine, while others frowned, seeing the idea as too dangerous. After all, an heir with both Egyptian and Roman blood was at the very least a potential threat. And that potential only grew, fueled by a context full of political tension, personal ambition, and imperial disputes. Caesarion's name was already bothering many powerful people, and little did they know that unease was just beginning. From a young age, Caesarion was raised with almost sacred care. Cleopatra knew he needed much more than a crown to survive in a world dominated by fragile alliances and swift betrayals. So she surrounded the boy with scholars, strategists, and philosophers who shaped his thinking like a masterpiece. The plan was clear: to turn the boy into a leader who was both the rightful heir of Egypt and worthy of Roman respect. But keeping that balance was like walking a tightrope in the middle of a storm. His name wasn't chosen by chance. Ptolemy 15, his official title, carried the weight of the Ptolemaic dynasty, while the nickname Caesarion was a political provocation disguised as homage. The name alone gave chills in Rome, where Octavian and his allies saw the boy as a threat wrapped in a prince's robe. While Cleopatra did everything to affirm her son's Egyptian identity, she also knew how to play with Roman symbols, feeding a myth that grew between two worlds. And the tension between these identities only increased with time. But in the eyes of the Egyptian people, Caesarion was the future of a millennia-old empire, the link between gods and men. But to Roman politicians, he was a threat in teenage form. This duality began to wear down the young prince's image, and Cleopatra was forced to make bolder and bolder decisions to protect her son. In a world filled with legend and myth, his story had already become intertwined with the fate of empires. And soon, this unstable balance between dream and fear would gain a new protagonist, Octavian. When Julius Caesar was assassinated, the political game in Rome turned into a bloody arena. In the midst of the chaos rose Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, determined to take control of everything. To him, Caesarion was more than an obstacle. He was an insult. After all, how could he accept that a boy born in Egypt might be considered the true son of Julius Caesar? Octavian not only doubted the paternity, he feared what that name represented: the power to unite two ancient civilizations under one throne. Cleopatra, never naive, quickly understood the danger. With Caesar dead, she needed a new ally, powerful enough to protect Caesarion. That's where Mark Antony comes in, a powerful general, charismatic, and as if that weren't enough, completely enchanted by her. From a political alliance came romance and more children, but the queen's focus remained on securing the throne for her firstborn. The Egyptian empire still breathed, but Rome's shadow was closing in fast. Octavian, across the sea, watched everything with eagle eyes. Every move Cleopatra and Antony made was calculated, but also fed his propaganda. To the Roman people, he claimed they were being manipulated by a foreign queen and her traitorous lover. And at the center of this war of narratives was Caesarion, turned into a living symbol of the clash between worlds. Tensions escalated, and ancient history began to take on the shape of an imminent tragedy. The year was 31 BC, and the fate of Egypt and an entire dynasty was decided in the choppy waters of the Ionian Sea. The famous Battle of Actium wasn't just a naval battle, it was a turning point in ancient history. On one side, Mark Antony and Cleopatra, with their gleaming ships and the weight of two empires on their shoulders. On the other, Octavian, calculating and ruthless, determined to eliminate any threat to his rule. The conflict was intense, but in the end, victory smiled on Rome. With the defeat sealed, the Egyptian court fell into despair. Mark Antony, upon hearing the false news of Cleopatra's death, took his own life, unaware she was still alive. Shortly after, the queen herself, realizing all was lost, also left this world in the most dramatic way possible. The Palace of Alexandria, once vibrant with dreams of greatness, now stood silent, draped in mourning, fear, and uncertainty. And in the middle of this collapse, Caesarion became the last remnant of a powerful lineage. At just 17 years old, the young heir found himself facing a ruined empire with no allies. He was quickly captured by Octavian's forces, who now marched as the undisputed master over what remained of the Ptolemaic civilization. The temples were empty, the palace halls deserted. It was the end of an era, and the boy once hailed as King of Kings now stood before his cruelest fate. But history still had one final blow in store, the kind that's not easily forgotten. And news of Caesarion's capture spread quickly, and with it came a silent tension among those who still sympathized with the old Egypt. Cleopatra, before her death, tried to negotiate, to plead, to use every last ounce of her influence to protect her son. But it was too late. Octavian wasn't about to leave any loose ends. To him, keeping alive a boy with Caesar's blood was like signing his own death warrant in the future. The young man was taken to his final destination without fanfare, as if history itself wanted to silence an uncomfortable chapter. There was no trial, no ceremony, just a cold order and the silence of those too powerless to defy it. And so, at 17, the last Pharaoh of Egypt met his end. It was not just the death of a young prince, but the end of a lineage that had shaped ancient history with myths, empires, and legends for centuries. Cleopatra's other children, born from her union with Mark Antony, were spared. Octavian took them to Rome, where they were raised by his sister Octavia. A curious decision, maybe strategic, maybe diplomatic. But Caesarion, he was erased from history with chilling precision. His name vanished from official records, his image removed from murals, and his existence gradually faded into a whisper among the ruins of time. Still, his story remains alive for those who listen closely to the echoes of ancient civilizations. Now, did you know that at the end of a story of kings and empires, fate can be sealed in unthinkable ways? Caesarion's death wasn't just the end of a young prince, but the closing of a chapter that might have changed the course of history. What do you think would have happened if he had survived? Would Octavian's Rome have been any different? Tell us in the comments what impressed you most about this story and what you think about Octavian's decision. Do you believe he could have given the young man a chance to live and rule? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next stories.